Now on YouTube, it's time for some alternative commentary action with the Commentary Hub.
There's headed by Marina, and it's 2-1 to Arsenal.
Look at that point! Goal for Manchester City!
Takes this corner, whips it in, it's headed and it's a goal, and it's that man, Gabriel.
Liverpool have equalised. Lovely improvisational touch from Curtis Jones.
Oh, what a goal! Wow, take it back!
Good evening and welcome to the Commentary Hub's alternative audio coverage of the World Cup Group Stage Draw. The venue is taking place at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., the capital city of the United States of America. My name is Nicholas Jones and I will be your guide throughout the draw procedure, and I have with me three experts who have been following the qualification phase and the run up to the draw at one stage or another. I have Russ Vernon, Ash Mayer, and Bruno Winter. We'll start with you, Bruno. This is the first to be held in three countries, which has never happened before. It is the first World Cup in the US since 1994, the first in Mexico since 1986, and also this will be Canada's first World Cup as hosts. So three countries hosting the World Cup. How is this going to be organized, do you think?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of traveling. There's a lot of games scheduled with so many more teams now, of course, in this upcoming World Cup. And it'll be interesting to see how different countries sort of adjust to the schedule and, of course, adjust to the heat, which is going to play a big factor.
Yes, we will be coming to that. But as I mentioned, the USA and Mexico have hosted the World Cup before. So what will they draw on from their previous experiences?
Well, I think it's been a while since they've done it. I think certainly the World Cup in America in '94 had a good amount of success. I think it brought soccer, as they call it there, to a pretty big fourfold in that country. And the expectation is that this will do that again. Mexico's hosted two World Cups, been pretty quick succession. And they had success, of course. England fans won't want to be reminded about some of Maradona's antics in one of them. But I think Mexico's always been pretty strong with football. And it's interesting to see Canada. Canada's has got a decent group of players now playing in Europe for the first time ever, really. And it's interesting to see how the sport is going to grow.
All right, thanks for now, Bruno. And I'm now going to talk to the man who's been following it more than most, Russ Vernon. Russ, this is the first to have 48. This is the first World Cup to have some 48 teams. Some which have called the move to be quite controversial. Others are saying it might benefit other countries which may not have a chance. But where do you sit on this?
I think it's quite good, Nicholas, to potentially have more teams in there because it gives the likes of Curacao, who's in the World Cup for the first time in their history, to have a chance on the world stage to let some of their players be showcased on the biggest stage in world football. Obviously, the World Cup is obviously the biggest stage in world football, and it's been interesting to see how some other teams doing this competition. You can see 80s in there as well in pot 4. Obviously, we've got the three hosts in pot 1, along with the likes of Spain, Argentina, France, England. So I think it's going to be an interesting draw to England and many other teams. Again, not just England, France, Argentina, Spain, amongst others get. So I think it's going to be a good one to see, and be interesting to see how it all works out and whether it's a very successes. Say the Club World Cup was a success in many people's eyes. I'd be interested to see if this is good success, and whether they'll continue to do it with this amount of teams or whether they reduce it for the World Cup following on after this one, Nicholas, in my opinion.
This could well be interesting. So this could well be interesting, and with Russ having given his opinion on a 48 team World Cup, we're now going to ask Ash Mayer what he thinks. Ash, with this being a 48 team World Cup, this may also has opened the doors for more of the less well-known confederations.
Yes, Nicholas. Look, there are a lot of interesting dynamics at play with this current World Cup. With the change of the format from 32 to 48 teams, it has brought other smaller teams into the picture. With the likes of Norway qualifying into the World Cup, we could see smaller teams causing an upset throughout the stages. And then the likes of South Africa making a team after a 4 World Cup hiatus. So it'll shine a light on a lot of I can say smaller teams. But I mean, look, there's a lot of interesting dynamics at play currently in this 2026 World Cup.
One thing I do actually have to ask is whether the increase of popularity and publicity on football in Africa after Morocco's performance in 2022 when they reached the semi-finals. Now that Morocco's exploits are well known, has this given the continent incentive to say yes? We can send forward a team that will shock everyone.
Oh yes, most definitely. Look, with the return of South Africa after the 2022 World Cup, we can watch them and them having a strong performance in the AFCON. We'll definitely see a much improved South African team. And then the other one to watch out from the African side is Senegal, with their depth and physicality and tactical organization. We could see a few upsets. Of course, do note that a lot of the African players play in the European leagues, so they do kind of know the environment and they are up to scratch with the team dynamics of a lot of the European teams. And it's unfortunate that Nigeria are out of the World Cup, but there are notable African teams. And after the success of the AFCON that we had, it's really shined a light on a lot of the African teams.
Yes. I would have to say indeed they have. So Bruno, we'll come to you asking what your opinion is on the World Cup to have 48 teams.
Well, I think it gives more of a chance for these smaller nations to compete and to be recognised on a global scale. You know, you'd never see Uzbekistan or Curacao qualify for a World Cup had it just been the previous format. So it's exciting new opportunity. I think people, when they first heard of it, were pretty reactionary and unhappy, just because no one really likes change that much, especially in sport. But I think it'll be interesting to shine a light on lesser known nations, as I said, and maybe give some players a good chance to show themselves to a global stage and to potentially be scouted. It's the perfect scouting opportunity for players from smaller nations to give themselves a platform.
Yes, indeed. So before we go any further, I'm now going to remind everybody of the teams that have already qualified. Plus there will also six playoffs are to be are to determine the final. Are to determine the final 8 space. Are to determine the final 6 spaces for the World Cup. I'm actually going to run you all through the pots. So in pot 1, we have the hosts Canada, Mexico, and the United States of America, and they have been drawn already. And they will already be placed into their respective groups. Canada will get Group B1, Mexico A1, and the United States D1. They will, of course, be determined by separate coloured balls. Canada will be recognised by the red ball, Mexico the green ball, and the United States the blue ball. Also in pot one are the top 4 seeded nations after a recent FIFA Coca-Cola Men's World Ranking issued on the 19th of November, and the top seeded teams and the top 4 seeded teams: Spain, Argentina, France, and England. We will mention a bit late. We will mention later why the top seeded teams are being kept apart, but also in pot one, Brazil, Portugal, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Germany. In pot two, Croatia, Morocco, Colombia, Uruguay, Switzerland, Japan, Senegal, Islamic Republic of Iran, Korea Republic, Ecuador, Austria, and Australia. In pot three, Norway, Panama, Egypt, Algeria, Scotland, Paraguay, Tunisia, Cote d'Ivoire, Uzbekistan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and South Africa. So the teams in pot four that qualify without going into playoffs: Jordan, Cabo Verde, Ghana, Curacao, Haiti, and New Zealand. There are 4 UEFA playoffs in playoff A: Italy, Northern Ireland, Wales, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. In playoff B, Ukraine, Sweden, Poland, and Albania. In playoff C, Turkey, Romania, Slovakia, and Kosovo. In playoff D, Denmark, North Macedonia, Czechia, and the Republic of Ireland. As well as the 4 UEFA playoffs, there are also 2 FIFA playoffs, or what used to be known as intercontinental playoffs. In the FIFA playoff 1, New Caledonia, Jamaica, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. In the second FIFA playoff, Bolivia, Suriname, and Iraq. Now that I've gone through all the teams, 4 will be making their World Cup debut: Uzbekistan, Jordan, Cabo Verde, and Curacao, and 5 could make their debut through playoff qualification. These nations being Albania, Kosovo, New Caledonia, North Macedonia, and Suriname. So we're still going through the pre-show at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. The FIFA president Gianni Infantino giving a speech to the distinguished audience. But what should be mentioned next, chaps, is that the top 4 seeded teams, Argentina, France, Spain, and England, are to be kept apart until at least the semi-finals. Obviously, this will, of course, depend on how they qualify through their respective groups, but some might say FIFA have made this an unconventional move. Bruno, would you agree?
I think so. But what isn't unconventional about FIFA nowadays, really?
Yes, yes, indeed. So, Russ, how do you see it?
For me, Nick, I probably would tend to agree with Bruno, but you can see they're trying to give potentially those sort of teams an easier or easy path through to the semi-finals to have a chance of making it through to the final. We'll have to wait to see how it pans out, because like Bruno said, it couldn't, if one of them finished second in the group, you could face them a different way, but I think it's all finished top of the groups. They can't meet until the semi-finals. But if they finish, like, say, second in the group, or even a third place runner-up in the groups as well, you may see those sort of teams face against each other prior to the semi-finals. But I think from what I looked at, Nicholas, is only if they win the groups, they can be not drawn against each other until the semi-finals.
Okay, thanks to Ross for that clarification. Ash, what's your take on the top 4 seeded teams being kept apart until semi-finals?
Yeah, no, look, I'm a bit in the mixed emotions with that because on the one hand, it could, like Russ said, it could give them an easier run. But on the other hand, if you do manage to pick up on the early stages one of the I would say minnow teams, and one must understand that the minnow teams have essentially, I would say, nothing to lose, and the bigger teams have more to prove. So would the bigger teams risk it and not like play full out, and you have the smaller teams actually going for it, like say for example Norway, where they come into the World Cup, they know, look, yeah, okay, let's just go all out and possibly, let's say maybe knocking out one of the big teams. So it could play both ways, but I do lean a bit that it does favor the bigger teams.
Some might actually say that FIFA is actually trying to favour some of the higher base teams, but me personally, I don't see that actually happening. So now we're going to take a look at some of the stadiums in the that will be in the World Cup. Some you might recognize from the Club World Cup, others from the Major League Soccer in the United States, like for example the Atlanta Stadium in Georgia. That's a very impressive feat of engineering itself. It has a retractable glass roof, and it will also include, and 8 games will take place there, including the second semi-final. Now, me personally, I'm actually looking forward to seeing matches at that stadium. And yes, it was one of the venues. And yes, Russ, it was one of the venues included in the Club World Cup. You covered that a bit last season. How do you see stadiums like the Atlanta or Mercedes-Benz Stadium and some of the other ones that we saw?
I think they're really good stadiums, Nick, because I've seen a few MLS games as well in the past, and they're really good stadiums that they used there. In some cases, it weren't ideal because of the weather conditions, but nobody knows what the weather is going to be like from 1 minute to the next. And for me, I think the stadiums and the preparation going into this World Cup, they'll take a lot of things from that Club World Cup because they'll know what kind of weather is due to expect on those similar sort of time frames, and they may try and fit games in a little bit later in the day over there to try and accommodate for the weather, so there's not that much heat or stuff like that behind it, in my opinion. And I think we could potentially see some games kick off a bit later, but I think the stadiums are really good, and I think they've chosen some really good stadiums in the MLS, from the MLS in America, which, so I don't really know many stadiums in Canada or Mexico, so sorry to anybody from there who was listening to our coverage today. But for me, in the MLS, some good stadiums there, and you saw how it worked for the Club World Cup. Let's just hope is another successful story for this summer's World Cup in 2026, or next summer's World Cup, as we're still in 2025 right now.
I believe there is actually a stadium in Toronto that has hosted an MLS side, and that is Toronto FC. One or two listeners may recognise some of the Canadian stadiums as those that were featured in the Women's World Cup. some 10 years ago, but that's another story. Bruno, obviously with the stadiums being a mix of soccer and American football, as well. So there is a lot of variety to it. How do you see those stadiums? How do you see those stadiums being faring during the World Cup, even though some of them have had experience because of the Club World Cup last year?
Yeah, well, I think stadiums nowadays are all purpose built for all sports, really, and entertainment as well. I think stadiums to host different sports are going to be fine. An interesting factor is going to be the pitches, because a lot of these American football pitches have the artificial field turf because it's cheaper, it's more comfortable for them and for the owners to pay for that. And they're going to have to change that to grass turf for the World Cup. That's one of the part of the deal that FIFA had in that contract. So it's going to be interesting to see, because it's going to be completely new grass turf for some of the pitches. And we've seen in the past, new fields aren't always the most comfortable, the best. There could be slip ups, and it's going to be interesting to see what sort of boots that teams wear and different players handle those sort of situations.
So Ash, would you agree? So Ash, would you agree with that statement by Bruno? Given that FIFA, given that it's a FIFA requirement to have those games played on grass.
Yeah, no, I can 100% agree with Bruno with regards to the pitches, because changing over from artificial to the grass, I've played on artificial, so it's a big difference to having played on grass, which is more slippery, and it being new might cause injuries, and then with the inclement temperature also, it might be an issue for a lot of the players. I would say, especially maybe for the European players that are used to more a cooler climate, I would say. But I would have to agree with Bruno. The pitch is going to play a major role in this World Cup.
They might be lucky. They might be lucky at some of the stadiums in Canada, because it is because it is actually cooler up there. One of our commentators, Paul James, is based around there, so so he would know. We're still going through the pre-show, just going through a performance by Robbie Williams and Nicole Scherzinger. Robbie, for those that watched the Club World Cup last year, they may remember that Robbie did actually perform before the Club World Cup final. But speaking of the Club World Cup final, one thing that got us talking a lot, and also got us concerned about how the teams are going to cope, is the weather. There was a lot of heat wave and sun. There were people passing out in the pitch and in the stands, dehydration, exhaustion. Plus games were also delayed due to thunderstorms. Bruno, do you see that being a recurring problem?
I just think it's part of the American climate, the sort of the North American climate. It happens most years. You especially see, reports out of the South in Florida, New Orleans, that sort of area. Usually see a couple of thunderstorms a year, and big ones and important ones. And we've seen, as you mentioned, in the Club World Cup, heavy delays. And I think the expectation is that that's going to continue. There's no reason to think that it won't. So we'll see. Maybe the dates, the times of the games will be adjusted to favour the weather in that regards. But then you're also asking players to play in a climate which they're not used to, they're not acclimatized to, and it's going to be tough. I think everyone knew going in that the weather was going to play a big factor, but the previous Club World Cup has just shone an even bigger light on that.
Yeah. Yes, those are good points. Players that aren't used to this kind of condition, particularly from Europe and Oceania, might find this a problem. Even some of the players in Europe, even though it can be really hot in the likes of France, Spain, and Portugal. Ash, Ash, do you also see the weather being a problem for players who have not been who have not played in the US before?
Yeah, no, I think it will definitely be a factor. It might, to a degree, favor the African players that are used to playing in such heat. It might affect certain affect a lot of the European teams with the heat. But I think it will play a big factor. And we'll see. Seen as that there was a point raised with regards to having players in the change room being called out and so forth. It could change the atmosphere of the game, but we'll have to see going forward how players just because I mean these are professional players, so I mean would be prepared going into the World Cup. And like Bruno mentioned, with regard, we saw a lot of what came of the Club World Cup with that situation. So there's a lot of interesting dynamics at play, and the weather is going to be one of them.
Yes, thanks. Yes, thanks for now, Ash. Russ, Russ, with regards to the weather and players not used to this kind of climate, and obviously we saw that during the Club World Cup last year. Something there are. Would you say there are fears that something like this? Would you say there are fears that something like this could happen again?
Yeah, there is always that thing in the back of people's mind that it could happen again, because as we've mentioned on here already, that is known for in America for those kind of things. And if there is just to give a bit of insight to those from when I was watching the Club World Cup in the summer, which was on the TV over here in the UK, I was listening to one of the pundits for one of the games, Leanne Sanderson, who has worked and lived out there in the MLS and played some football out there as well. And she was saying that, and this is just an insight for people in case anybody doesn't know, there's a lightning strike. They've got to go off for 30 minutes. And say 30 minutes is nearly up and there's another lightning strike happens, say with 2 minutes to go, they've got, instead of saying, right, you can still come out in the next couple of minutes, what they've got to do, if it happens to 2 minutes before the time's up, they've got to wait an extra 30 minutes on top of what they've already waited for it to happen again. And so, which is always going to be a bit of a issue for players. Say the likes of the people who went out there who play say for Real Madrid or going into this World Cup, or Chelsea, for example, just use those two teams as an example. Now, because they were both out of the Club World Cup, those kind of players, they'll prepare for situations like that, and they can help their teammates at, say, England, Spain, Brazil, Argentina, France, or whatever. They can help them prepare for situations to happen like that because they've seen it happen first hand. So they'll be in a better position to prepare, and it will also give, say, the players who don't play for those countries better preparedness because they can tell them what to expect. They can tell the coaches what to expect, so then the coaches can prepare things differently. Before we went on, Nicholas, I listened to an interview which I know you and Ash did as well with Thomas Tuchel, and I just want to ask what you think about this. It says England players may warm up inside the dressing room, and if you're listening, get your thoughts on this as well. Players may warm up in the dressing room before coming out to play out on the field if it is too warm. Do you think that could, and I'll come to Bruno on this one first, do you think this could hinder people's chances, or do you think it could help players warming up inside and then coming out into the heat to play, as you saw some club sides do in the Club World Cup, do that same tactic? If Tuchel goes down that route, do you think that could help England for later on in the tournament, or do you think it could be an hindrance to England, that one?
I just think there's so many factors when you think about tournament football, especially when you get to the later rounds, which we expect England to be in. I think all of it kind of just goes out the window as you walk on the pitch, and it's just football at the end of the day. But the preparation, as you mentioned, is going to be key. It's going to be important. We certainly can't disregard it. But I think at the end of the day, as you can do as much preparation as you can. It's what you do on the pitch, and all the talking you do is on the pitch. And these are professional footballers at the end of the day who know how to handle these elements and should be able to acclimatise themselves fairly early on into the tournament and be able to prepare themselves and find a good way of preparation to be at their maximum.
Yeah, Nick, what did you make to the comments that we heard before we went on air from Thomas Tuchel, Nicholas? Do you think he was positive from what he said there, or do you think he needs to potentially look at something else for his England players to do, Nick? What do you make to that comments what we heard earlier?
Well, the other thing is, and this is something we may have overlooked, is that some European football clubs, particularly those in the Premier League, I'm not sure if it's the case with the likes of France and Italy and Germany, but they do actually do pre-season games overseas, including the US. So they may have some degree of experience of American Sun.
Yeah, you would probably think so, Nicholas. Ash, would you agree with Nicholas there, or how would you see that affecting not just England but other countries as well if they're having to warm up inside before coming out to play? Ash, from what we heard off air before we went on air from what Thomas Tuchel was saying, the England boss.
I don't think it'll be too much of an issue for the team's perspective. I think, look, you can make, tactically it could play out, and playing mind games with the opposition team, it could be a factor. But I don't think it'll be too much of an issue, just mainly because of the heat situation. But I think from a fan perspective, it will take away from it because of the atmosphere. I mean, you're not seeing your star player or on the bench or something, could take away from the atmosphere of the the game. But from a tactical perspective, I do see there might be some pros to that.
Okay, we've just had Mike comments in. He says, "Hey guys, he was initially meant to be with us, but he had to withdraw owing to not feeling well." So Mike, if you're listening, get well soon, and we hope to hear your opinions and comments on the teams as they are being drawn out. So
yeah, I just want to, Nick, if it may, Mike, I just want to ask you your question, to you, Mike. I've just asked to the others as well. What do you think? Do you think it could be an hindrance to not just England, to the countries, if they have to have the players warm up inside due to the hot heat, Mike? Or do you think it will benefit him for later on in the tournament? How do you see that working out, Mike? What do you think to that there, man? Do you think it could be a good thing to warm up inside instead of getting too hot and then just coming on to play the game? Or do you think they're better off being out on the field, in the dugout, watching the game and giving support to the team from out there rather than in the dressing room, Mike? Let's know your thoughts on that. Nick, back to you, my friend.
Okay, we'll have those thoughts. We'll have those thoughts from Mike as and when we can. So we're still going through the pre-show. One of the key attendees at the draw is the US President Donald Trump. He will make a speech before the teams are drawn. But now we'll go through some of the teams which are likely to be the heavy hitters and favourites. And they include the likes of Spain, France, and Brazil. Also another of the top teams to watch. Argentina still strong, even without Lionel Messi, who confirmed during the 2022 World Cup that it was to be his last. We're also going and some of the other teams that could be worth watching: England, Portugal, the Netherlands, and Uruguay. And there are also honourable mentions to the likes of Croatia, Germany, Japan, and Colombia. So we'll start with you, Bruno. Who in your opinion would be your in your opinion would be the top teams to watch?
Well, I think naturally you deviate to the favourites, and that would obviously, I think, include Spain as the holders of the European Cup. I think Argentina. I think the expectation is that Messi will play, and they're always a threat, of course. And France have a very strong squad, and could have said we're one of the better teams. Obviously, just lost out in the final last World Cup, but I think, as we mentioned before, the heat is going to play a factor. It might favour these South American sides, Brazil potentially. And maybe we can see a shock side. I have a sneaky feeling Portugal are going to have a much stronger campaign than what a lot of people are thinking. And the hope is that England will finally get over their demons.
We actually thought Mike was going to be present, but he actually is. Mike, glad you could join us.
Good afternoon, fellas. How are we? You okay?
Yes, we're fine. Russ asked you a couple of questions a short while ago regarding whether England would be affected, whether clubs like England would be affected by the heat, and also some others wouldn't. So, what are your answers?
Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult for England. Obviously, we've not got the experience of playing in that kind of temperature and heat before, too often. Whereas some of the South American sides are going to have a lot more experience of doing so, from being at other tournaments and stuff in the past. So I feel that it might be difficult for England and some of these other European sides as well. France, Spain, Germany, Portugal, etc. So yeah, I think that as Russ was alluding to, the whole warming up kind of thing is going to be beneficial to do that in the stadium, so they get a feel of the environment and everything like that. And I'm sure they'll be training in the stadiums and stuff as well. And I know there's friendlies arranged for England in particular, and I know some of these other nations as well who are going to be having these warm weather training camps and friendlies beforehand in these kind of countries, which will benefit them as well. So it's going to be an interesting tournament, and I think it could well play into some of these South American sides' hands, the likes of Argentina and Brazil potentially.
Okay, Mike. We'll ask you and everyone else who you think is going to win and why. But we'll also keep an eye on some of the clubs that could well be strong contenders, and also the ones that could spring a surprise or two. Who do you think could well be a dark horse, and who might spring a surprise?
I suppose that's to me. So I guess, yeah, dark horses. It's going to be interesting to see how some of these nations do that I mentioned: Portugal, Belgium, nations like that. So England hopefully will do well as well. But yeah, it's favourites. You can't look beyond some of these South American sides for me: Brazil and Argentina and teams like that, who I feel are really going to have their A game on, where obviously they've got experience of playing in these kind of climates before.
Yes, but also you mustn't also discount some of the African teams like Senegal and even Japan have been given a mention.
Yeah, most definitely, they're good sides as well. They've got some top draw players, and I'm sure they'll be up for it too. Yeah.
All right, so we'll get back to Mike a little later on. Bruno, which teams do you think could well be dark horses, or indeed strong contenders, or even surprise packages?
Well, I think I mentioned Portugal. I just think with all the mentions of climate and everything, I think the biggest factor at the end of the day is talent and teamwork in football. That's how it's always been. I think that's how it's always going to be. So I think the big teams will do well. The teams that historically do well will continue to do so. And in terms of surprise packages, I think you mentioned Japan. I think they have a chance. They have a good squad. You expect to see one of maybe the African or Asian nations do well as well. I think it's probably just too much to go through and win the tournament for one of them. But I think might mention Brazil. I think Brazil have been pretty poor in the recent past, and I don't think they're going to have quite as strong a World Cup as what a lot of people think. So I think Spain are favourites currently going into it, but I think Portugal, maybe France have a good a chance as anyone.
Russ, who would you say is your dark horse, and who do you think could bring us, and who do you think could spring a surprise, including everybody, as the World Cup trophy is being brought onto the centre of the stage. So we are getting close to the draw.
Yeah, for me, Nicholas, if I were to pick, I can't look past like the likes of Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay as potential ones, and as potential ones to win the tournament. Obviously, put England up there with how they've been playing under Thomas Tuchel so far, and the way he wants to play. Maybe he could potentially help England win it for the first time since 1966. But then potentially someone who could potentially cause a surprise, and I'd probably say Curacao is potentially one of them, because everyone were expecting Jamaica to qualify automatically from their group in the qualifying campaign, but Curacao performed magnificently in their game against Jamaica to get that point that they needed to get into the World Cup for their first ever time. So a lot of people won't know what they're all about. We probably won't know much about their players either. So we're good place to see them. We mentioned of Japan as well. They've got some decent players like Minamino, who used to play at Liverpool. Al Tanaka, who plays at Leeds United, who scored a wonderful goal against Chelsea on Wednesday evening in the Premier League. There's also Maeda from up in Scotland. So there's a few good players in Jamaica, in the Japan squad. Uruguay, look at how they've done in qualifying so far with Bielsa, former Leeds boss. They're doing well there. Canada's doing fairly well too, so maybe look out for them as well in this, because they, despite what people have said, me included, on Jesse Marsch as a manager from his time at Leeds, and everyone didn't think he would be a good manager, he seems to have found a team who works well with his system that he likes to play, and that is Canada. So can't really count them out either. So and I've seen Germany in recent weeks as well, Nick, in their qualifying game to get through into this rather than via the playoffs. So you can't really count out Germany either, because they've looked strong in the past few matches as well.
Yes, yes. Thanks for now, Rush. Ash, now that some of the African teams and indeed some of the Asian teams can benefit from the 48-team format, do you see them as potentially causing an upset? We appear to have lost Ash for a moment.
Sorry about that. My mic cut out. Yeah, no, look, my team, I would have to say, would be Norway. I mean, they're coming in with a return back to the World Cup, and with the likes of Holland picking up form in the Premier League, that could cause a major upset. And then with regards to the African and Asian teams, I see Senegal causing a potential upset with one of the bigger teams, maybe coming up, matching against, let's say in the quarters, Brazil or something, because I would think Brazil would want to come back strong after their recent run of form in the World Cups. And then my notable mention would be, I think England will most probably take this one.
Okay. Mike Hardiman Mike's put in that Korea Republic could potentially do this one too. I mean they finished fourth in 2002 when they were hosts. So how do you see Korea Republic's potential, Mike?
Yeah, I just think they've got a decent squad. They've got some good players in there. When you look at some of the players they have on their books, obviously the likes of Son, can play a big part for them. So I think that they're certainly ones to look out for potentially too. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, indeed. But another nation I should also mention is the USA. Even though they are the host nations, they have had a reputation of surprising bigger teams, especially in the early rounds. I mean, they drew against England in the last World Cup, and many will also remember, and many American listeners may also remember that they reached the quarterfinals in 2002 when they lost to Germany. So and also with a good sizable amounts of players in Europe and other countries, do not discount the Americans.
No, definitely not. And obviously they've got a good boss in Mauricio Pochettino as well. So he's going to be, a name to look out for. And obviously people are very familiar with him from his time at Tottenham and his time over here in the UK. So yeah, good manager as well. And I'm sure he'll get the best out of his side.
Following the teams, I should say, we now take a look at the top players to at which they think the players are worth keeping an eye on. So we'll start with Bruno. Bruno, out of the players that could be in the squad, who do you think is the player worth keeping an eye on?
I think when you look at club football and you say who's been the most dominant team, and I think the PSG over the last couple of seasons have been the standout team. Certainly last year had a brilliant campaign, won the Champions League, got to the Club World Cup final. João Vitinha midfield has been excellent alongside João Neves. I think those two for Portugal could have a real impact. Obviously, Desiree Doué could be making his World Cup debut for France. And I think they're interesting, as well as the standard players. You know, your Kylian Mbappé is going to be another tournament in. He's got a terrific record in the World Cup, and he may look at Miroslav Klose's record come the end of his career. So I think those players are probably the key ones. And then you look at England, Harry Kane is obviously a top striker, and maybe for Spain, I think Lamine Yamal is now the big talking point in world football.
So we're gonna have to rattle through those last two questions very quickly because the draw is seemingly imminent. Ash, which players stand out for you quickly? Looks like we're not going to be able to get a response from Ash. So, Mike, which players do you think will stand out?
Yeah, pretty much all the same ones as Bruno mentioned, but obviously you can throw in the likes of Declan Rice for England as well. He's been a real cog in that Arsenal midfield, so Declan Rice will play a big part too.
Okay, well, it looks like we're almost out of time to go through the rest. So we are going to cut to the draw and conducting the draw will be former England international and pundit Rio Ferdinand and TV presenter Samantha Johnson. And also some of the draw assistants will be coming on as well. I don't see anybody coming on yet, but the draw assistants will be Tom Brady, a 7-time NFL Super Bowl champion, and the most titles held by a quarterback, along with 18 league titles. He is currently on the board at Birmingham City as a minority owner, and he is also an analyst for the NFL on US television. Wayne Gretzky will also be there, regarded as the greatest ice hockey player in the sports history, with a number of NHL records, points, career assists, and so on, and also won the Stanley Cup 4 times. Aaron Judge, the 7-time Major League Baseball All-Star winner, will also be one of the draw assistants. He's the current captain of the New York Yankees in the American League, and he's been involved in philanthropy with his All Rise Foundation, which supports youth development. And Shaquille O'Neal, one of the most recognized people in the world of sports. He has many honors to his name, including the NBA All-Star Award 15 times. He's also won 4 NBA championships, Rookie of the Year, and a first ballot Hall of Famer. Now he is a successful businessman and entrepreneur. So we're still going through the we're still going through the pre-stages and things like that. So we are going to. So it doesn't look like we are going to. So it doesn't look like we are going to. So it doesn't look like we are going to start the draw anytime soon. So we'll get back to the question I was meant to tell Ash. Which players do you think will be the ones to watch?
Nicholas, yeah, I think my most notable player will be Lamine Yamal from Spain. He's had a stellar tournament. If he stays injury free, I mean, look, he had a hernia issue in his club games. And another one to look out for is, and a big upset is Holland from Norway. They've got no point to prove, Norway, so they might just gun it. And then not to mention Bellingham from England. He's been now with the squad for a numerous amount of years, so they'll want to seal the deal and get the gold. And then another one to mention for me, the last one, I would say Vinicius. He's got the potential to steal the show. And then like Mike also mentioned, Odegaard too for Norway, also a potential threat for the bigger teams.
Russ, who would you say are the players to watch as we tick nearer to the eventual draw?
For me, if you look at Portugal, maybe Cristiano Ronaldo, Vitinha has been mentioned. For France, Kylian Mbappe. Argentina, Messi. Spain, Lamal. For Egypt, you've got to look at potentially Mohamed Salah, despite his form not being great for Liverpool at the moment. And for England, I know Mao mentioned that it was Declan Rice potentially, another one for England, Cole Palmer, and maybe even Bukayo Saka, Harry Kane, and maybe even Jude Bellingham as well, because I think Bellingham could play a huge part for England as well, and maybe Reece James too, as Ash has just mentioned there as well.
Okay, so my last question to you all before we begin the draw is who you think will win the 26th World Cup, starting with Mike.
Sorry about that, mate. Just didn't hit the button in time there. I think that it's going to be one of a couple of teams, as we mentioned, but I'm favouring the South American side. So, I've mentioned Brazil before, and they will want to bounce back. And, they've got a very good record in this tournament as well. Argentina have done very, very well as well. But my bet, I'm going to edge towards Brazil, I think.
Okay. Okay, so Mike says Brazil. Bruno, who do you pick as your World Cup winners?
As much as I'd like to see England or Spain win, I just have a gut feeling that Portugal are going to do it. Cristiano Ronaldo's last game of professional football will be hoisting the World Cup trophy.
Okay, we're going to have to cut to this one because the draw for pot one has officially begun, and the first team drawn out, of course, Canada. They will be Canada. They are actually going to be placed in Group D, Pot 1. I thought it was going to be the United States of America, but apparently it's been changed, and now they've been placed into a Group B. I do apologize. And the next nation to come out is Mexico. So Mexico are to be placed into Group A1. So far, Canada placed in Group B1, and Mexico are to go into Group A1. And so the final ball about to be drawn. And this will deter, and it is of course the United States, and they will go into Group D1. President Trump unscrewing the ball, and he flashes the name across. We know who it is, the USA, and they will be placed into Group D1. Mauricio Pochettino, the United States manager looking on and applauding. So that's it. So that concludes the three host nations being drawn out across, and the delegates from Canada and Mexico, along with President Trump posing for an official photo, along with the FIFA president Gianni Infantino. Just going through a last minute chat with each other. So just going through a last minute chat with each other, and also posing for a selfie because why not? So I'm gonna I may not have sufficient time to ask Russ who will take the who he thinks will win the World Cup. So we're still yet to wait. So we're still yet to wait for the draw assistance. But I'm actually going to take a risk on that. Russ, who do you think is going to win the World Cup?
For me, Nick, it's going to be between two teams. As much as I want to see England lift it up, for me, I think it's going to be a final of Brazil against France, and I think it'll be Kylian Mbappe and France who will lift up the trophy. I think Ronaldo's tournament will end in the third playoff defeat to England.
Well, that's that'll make some listeners who may remember the World Cup in '98 between France and Brazil, a great match in itself. So we're now going through the last few stages of preparation, just going through some highlights clips of previous World Cups from years gone by, and so aside from the hosts, let's go through the rest of the teams through pots 1 to 4. In pot 1, Spain, Argentina, France, England, Brazil, Portugal, the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, and in pot 2, Croatia, Morocco, Colombia, Uruguay, Switzerland, Japan, Senegal, the Islamic Republic of Iran, Korea Republic, Ecuador, Austria, and Australia. Pot 3, Norway, Panama, Egypt, Algeria, Scotland, Paraguay, Tunisia, Cote d'Ivoire, Uzbekistan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and South Africa. In pot 4, which includes the playoff spots, Jordan, Cabo Verde, Ghana, Curacao, Haiti, and New Zealand, and in the playoffs for UEFA, there's 4 playoffs. In playoff A, Italy, Northern Ireland, Wales, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. In playoff B, Ukraine, Sweden, Poland, and Albania. In playoff C, Turkey, Romania, Slovakia, and Kosovo. In playoff D, Denmark, North Macedonia, Czechia, and the Republic of Ireland. And in the FIFA playoff 1, which used to be intercontinental playoffs, New Caledonia, Jamaica, and Democratic Republic of the Congo. And in the playoff 2, Bolivia, Suriname, and Iraq. Mike says, think we might be sleeping on the Netherlands. They've got a good squad also. It will be interesting to see how Cabo Verde, Haiti, and Jordan do, etc. So, Mike, why do you think we might be sleeping on the Netherlands?
I just think they've got a lot of talent in their squad. You know, they've got some really good players who have experience of playing high division in their countries, and I feel like they've got a good squad. And they did quite well in the last one as well. If it was the World Cup or the Euros, where they got quite far into it and quite deep into it. So yes. I think they've got a chance of going and find. Whether they'll win it, I don't see so, but they might well reach the quarters or the semis potentially.
And also some of those lesser known teams like Cabo Verde, Haiti, Jordan, Uzbekistan. Why do you think it'll be interesting to see how they do?
It's just the unknown factor. You know, we don't really know a lot about them as nations, and you know what they can do, and what they can bring. So that's the factor in that. Really, is I just think because we don't really know an awful lot about them, that you know there's bound to be a surprise package somewhere. Yeah.
Yes, and me personally, I would also have to say the same. I would also have to say the same for New Zealand. It's only their second World Cup appearance. They last appeared in the South African World Cup in 2010. But there are also in 2010. But there are also other teams too. There are other teams that are worth considering. Even though some of them only got as far as the round of 16. Bruno, I've actually been thinking countries like Australia, given that countries like Australia might have a chance of improving. I mean, they did well to reach the round of 16 last time.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting you mentioned New Zealand. They famously were unbeaten in their group. They drew all 3 games, and they were the only unbeaten team in the 2010 World Cup. I think Australia for a number of years has been knocking on the door. I think they've maybe had a win in the group stage, but just not been able to go through and finish too far out. They have a couple of decent players, and I think with these sorts of maybe smaller nations, we always see them group together and build a good team and team spirit, and that can take you pretty far in a tournament.
Also, another team I should also mention is Qatar. Even though they may have qualified as hosts for the last edition, but yet they also yet for this edition they qualified on merit. Most recently Asian champions. So how do you think they'll do this time round?
Well, I think it'll be interesting. I think you've definitely got a chance of getting maybe to the quarterfinal. I don't think further than that would be a fair representation of where they are, but you never know, especially once it gets to knockout football. The teams, more or less, in terms of quality, sort of tend to even themselves out, and you never know what can happen in 90 minutes.
Yes, indeed, and we're still going through the last bits of a pre-show before the draw officially begins. Just a word on stage being said by comedian and actor Kevin Hart. He presented the pre-show along with model and TV presenter Heidi Klum. But there is actually going to be another musical performance from Lauryn Hill, which I didn't know about. Bruno will have to jump. Bruno will have to jump a little bit later on, but one thing I will want to ask everybody, given that it happened quite a bit during the Club World Cup last year, is the inclusion of musical performances, including sort of halftime games, including sort of halftime shows, which are normally reserved for like baseball and American football. We'll cross to Russ on that one because he may have seen quite a bit of those during the Club World Cup last year. Russ, do you think those are really necessary for what is essentially a European sport?
Not for me, Nicholas. I think if it was, say, run specifically by the Americans and done specifically for Americans to watch and to see, I'd say so. But for it to be shown around the world, it's not necessarily to see that. We want to see the action on the field of play, not the actual musical performances. If we want to see musical performances, we can go to the theatre and see them there, or watch musical shows on TV or whatever, or music channels on TV. We don't really need to see them in football as well. Keep them where they need to be kept, and keep football as it's supposed to be, all about the 22 players on the field of play, and see who comes out on top. We don't need music in football.
Well, you may remember in the Qatar World Cup, there were musical performances in like fan zones and things like that.
Fan zones for me, I think that's fine. I mean, inside the stadiums, you don't really need to see them on the field of play where the players need to be. I think on the field stuff needs to be kept to just the football side of things. Fan zones and stuff like that's fine, but on the field, just keep it to the football, please.
Yeah. I was only pointing out the extra bits and things like that. Ash, do you agree with Russ that that this whole musical performances between football matches and even on stages like this is unnecessary?
I think to a degree it is unnecessary. I mean, because a lot of your hardcore football fans are not used to this actual situation of having this halftime shows. For me, it's not the essence of football and not what we're used to. But I would say, look, it is an American thing. So I mean, we should compromise to some degree and try to adapt on it. But I just don't think a lot of fans will be too keen on having the idea of the halftime shows, even though it will add a different dynamic to the game and the atmosphere of the World Cup as a whole. I don't think it's needed, to be honest, and I would agree with Russ.
I will ask Mike in a moment. Bruno. We'll ask Mike in a moment. Bruno. Would you also agree with Russ and Ash? Also say there's also room for compromise.
Sure, and I think this is the Americanization of the tournament. We saw it in the Club World Cup, and we've seen it with American sports, notably the Super Bowl and how extravagant it is every year. This was always going to happen, so I don't think anyone is really going to be surprised. I think in the past we've sort of become numb to the fact that it was football. But you understand from a financial point of view how much money they gain to earn from these sorts of events. It's not the best for the fans that are watching on the television, maybe, but at the end of the day, if you're too naive to think that money isn't going to play the biggest factor in this, then it's a shame.
Obviously, I'd have to say money is a big factor coming into this. I mean, because I've seen like bits of DJ sets and things like that in Formula One, particularly at the Grand Prix of Las Vegas. But that's besides the point. Mike, do you also agree with the other three?
Yeah, in the main I do, but I'd caveat that as well by saying that it is, the American way is what they do. They're very big and extravagant in terms of that for the likes of the Super Bowl. And it depends who they get as well. They could get these maybe artists that people aren't that aware of. So it could do them a bit of good as well from that point of view. And it has a different dynamic to it and a different kind of enjoyment factor for people in the stadium and in the stands as well, and a little bit of something different for them. So as much as we, want the football to be a spectacle, we also kind of want it to be a spectacle in that sense as well, where halftime is also enjoyable, and as well as getting a bit of insight into what pundits etc. have got to say on the game. I don't see too much wrong with also having a bit of enjoyment in terms of a bit of musical performances as well.
And also, it's not uncommon to have musical or DJ sets in our country as well, particularly before some things like the FIFA World, particularly for some things like the FA Cup final or indeed the Women's FA Cup final. So it could be starting to catch on a bit in other countries as well.
Yeah, potentially. Obviously, it happens in fan parks, as you and Russ just mentioned previously as well. So, we'll have to wait and see how it all pans out. And if people do think they're, getting something from that kind of musical performance as well and enjoying that. But personally, as I say, it just brings a different dynamic and different level of enjoyment for people in the stadium, and something else for them to, mull over and get their teeth into it in the halftime break as well, and kind of maybe get to know a bit more about different artists that they weren't familiar with otherwise.
Yeah, prepare to laugh at this, lads, because it's not going to keep me out of the nightclubs. we're just going through. So we're just going through. So we're just going through a couple of interviews. Eli Manning is going through. Eli Manning is doing a red carpet segment. He's the former NFL quarterback, and just to remind you that the draw assistants will be superstars from American sports: Tom Brady, the 7-time NFL Super Bowl champion; Wayne Gretzky, the greatest ice hockey player with a number of NHL records; Aaron Judge, the 7-time Major League Baseball All-Star winner; and four-time NBA championship winner Shaquille O'Neal. So that concludes the next part of the red carpet segments as Kevin and Heidi walk back onto the stage. So we appear to be just a couple of minutes away from. Away from the draw. But I hope I wasn't going to have to say this, but we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back when everything is all set and ready for the draw. Don't go anywhere.
We just appear to have lost Nick through a few technical issues. We'll bring Nick in as soon as we have got him back so he can conduct the draw. I'm with Vernon, part of the panel this afternoon, and we're waiting for Nick to come back and wait for the draw to get underway any second. Now, just want to bring in Mike first of all. Mike, we've been speaking in the chat regarding Scotland's chances of potentially winning this competition. You saw what they did to Denmark to qualify for the competition. How do you see this? How do you see their chances, Mike?
Yeah, I think they've got a decent chance of surprising a few people. I think that they've got a really good squad of players. They've got some good results as well in recent games. The Denmark game, as you mentioned, they beat Greece as well back in I think it was last month or so. So they've done well there. They've obviously lost narrowly to Greece as well, but they've beaten Denmark, as you say. They've also drawn with Denmark away from home. So they've got a decent squad of players, and they've got a sort of decent result in them as well. So I think they've got a chance of doing well. I don't think they'll win it. Absolutely not. I don't think they'll go that far. But I think depending on what their group is, they could potentially get through that and then kick on after that and go through a couple more rounds. And obviously we've got to look at the other British nations that could take part as well, Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland as well, who are both in playoffs. So, hopefully they'll get through, and then it'll be nice to see how they do. Republic of Ireland have in the past surprised a few people and got a few results, and Northern Ireland as well. Got a decent squad of players with likes of Dan Ballard and Jamie Reid, who will obviously go, who are both associated with Stevenage, where I'm from. So it'd be nice to see them go to the tournament, and hopefully they do.
Yes, absolutely, Mike. Absolutely, Nick. While I've got you here, my friend, what do you make to Scotland's chances of potentially getting through and potentially winning, and closer than winning? But do you think they can get out of? How do you see them doing in the tournament, Nick? Do you think they could get out of the group stage?
I would say they could. I mean, they've got I would say they could. I mean, they've got to say that they've got a strong squad in there. I mean, they had a torrid time in '98. They were unluckily placed in the same group as Brazil, if I can recall. But they've got an excellent manager in Steve Clarke. So I could potentially see them going out the group stage, possibly round of six. I'm pretty sure they'll go past round of 32, round of 16, maybe even quarterfinals.
Thank you very much, Nick. Just before we hand back to you, Nick, in a moment, Ash, how do you see Scotland doing in this tournament? Do you think they could do as well as what Nick's suggesting, or do you think they'll potentially go out in the group stage depending on who they get?
Russ, I think to be honest, it's a tall order for Scotland, and like we've mentioned numerous times with the climate, and I think this tournament's going to favour the bigger teams with the experience and depth that they have in squad.
We appear to have lost Ash, but we are now just a couple of minutes away from the draw. Rio Ferdinand and Samantha Johnson. Yep. No, sorry. Go on, Ash.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle for Scotland. They might cause an upset here and there, but I don't think they'll make it out of the group stage. I know it sounds harsh, but I think for the smaller European teams, I think they're going to struggle.
Okay, Ash, thanks for now. We are now about to kick off proceedings with the draw, and so Wayne Gretzky has been brought on, regarded, as I mentioned, the greatest ice hockey player of all time, certainly the greatest in the NHL. That's the National Hockey League in America, and he is shortly to be joined by Aaron Judge, the 7-time MLB All-Star winner, as he makes his way to the place where the balls will be drawn out. Don't forget, Canada, Mexico and the United States have already been drawn out. Mexico A1, Canada B1, and the USA D1. And also, soon to make his way onto the stage is basketball's greatest ever player, and certainly one of the most recognizable of all sportsmen the world over, Shaquille O'Neal. To me, he looks like he's one of the tallest of the delegates, and a man we all know because of his minority ownership of Birmingham City, former NFL quarterback and analyst Tom Brady. So all the delegates are in position, and we can get on with the draw of the group stage draw of the World Cup, and so we can kick off with proceedings as Rio and Samantha explain the rules. A quick chat with Wayne Gretzky, the 4-time Stanley Cup winner, and this must, I'm sure, be a great honor for him to present the draw in North America. He will be drawing out of pot number 4, Aaron Judge, the 3-time American League MVP. For anyone listening, could you please tell me what an MVP is, as I have no idea? So
basically, an MVP is their most valuable player, the player that has the most kind of of a say in their season. In terms of whether that's chance creation or whatever it might be, goals, assists, that kind of thing. An MVP is the most valuable player.
Okay, thanks, Mike, for that information. I'm not sure if that applies to European sports or not, but anyway, let's just get on with it. We can ask about this. We can ask and deliberate about this another time. So in the meantime, Bruno has left. We thank him for his contribution, and he is free to post if he is listening. Now that everybody has been introduced and we are all present and accounted for, we can start to get on with the draw. Bit of an interruption by Kevin Hart. I think so. I think somebody forgot something. A bit of a play fight going on between Tom and Shaquille. Everybody seeming to as a laugh through it all. Whether that was staged or not, I don't know. But here we go with pot number 1, so we already know Canada, Mexico, and the USA are included. We will run you through the other nations in pot 1 shortly. As Mike and I said, the USA can potentially upset some of the larger teams. Spain, of course, the European Cup winners. They're also previous winners of the Nations League. Argentina, winners, of course, of the last World Cup in 2022. One is in 1978 and 86. And France, they're another side that everyone agrees could be worth keeping an eye on. And also, not to discount England. They've done really well under Thomas Tuchel, and they are definitely ones to watch out for. Brazil, with Carlo Ancelotti now as their manager. Another team that shouldn't be discounted. Portugal. From what I've heard, they've still got Cristiano Ronaldo. The Netherlands, a team with a great squad. Ronald Koeman is their manager. Belgium, currently under the management of Roberto Martinez, and they're also worth keeping an eye on. Germany as well, the 4-time winners, and so we can proceed with the draw for the for pot number 1, and I will of course let you know, and of course I will let you know in a minute who will be drawn out as Rio and Samantha once again explain the rules. So the tension inside the tension inside the Kennedy Center Performing Arts area mounts as the managers and the nation's delegates wait to see who will go where. 16 groups they'll be placed into groups of 6. They will be placed into 16 groups of 4 or 8. We will confirm that in a moment. We will confirm that in a moment or two. I believe it is. Anyway, everyone says that they are ready. Remember the top 4 seeded nations are Spain, Argentina, France, and England can't meet until the semi-finals, depending on group performances. So we are now underway with the draw, and it's actually groups of 12. I do apologise. And the first team to be drawn out, Brazil. The first to come out, the first team in pot 1 to come out, and they are given a spot in Group C. And actually, no, they haven't. Yes, they have been placed into Group C, and they will be given the ball, and they will be given C1. So Brazil. So the first team drawn out, Brazil, and the next one drawn out, Germany. So Germany, the next team to be drawn out of the bowl, and they will be placed into Group E. Capitulated at the group stage in the last World Cup, and indeed the 2018 World Cup in Russia. Will they go further this time? And now we get to the next team to be drawn out, the Netherlands. The Netherlands drawn out, as Mike says, very good squad themselves, quarter-finalists in 2022 and runners-up 3 times. And now we come into, so the Netherlands will be placed into the first slot in Group F, as Tom Brady reveals the next one to be drawn out. It is indeed Belgium. So Belgium have been drawn out, and they will be placed into Group G. So the first team to go into Group G is Belgium. So we now have Spain, Argentina, France, England, and Portugal left, and Spain. And Spain are the next team out. Of course, winners in 2010. They made the round of 16 in 2022, but they have performed rather strongly since then. Won the Nations League in 2023 and the Euros in 2024. So just 4 teams left to be drawn, and coming out is Argentina. Argentina now 3 times winners. Will they be able to replicate that feat? Who knows? But they are definitely placed into Group I. So 3 more spots left. So 3 more spots left to go, and I have to correct myself. They are going into Group J because of some sanctions restrictions or other. That may likely be because they can't face Spain until the semi-finals because of later winners. And the next team out is France. So where will they go? I wonder. Didier Deschamps, the French manager, looking on. Just have to catch my breath for a moment. So they are going into Group I. So we now have England and Portugal left. So next team drawn out, Portugal, and Portugal may be placed into Group K or Group L. We shall have to wait and see. And yes, indeed, they are going into Group K. So that just leaves one ball left and one group left to be placed in. Tom Brady having a bit of difficulty unscrewing the ball, but so he finally gets it undone. Tricky customers, those balls. And it is England, the last team to be drawn out of pot 1. And so England will be placed into Group L. That might be unfortunate. For England being the last team drawn out of pot 1. But it all depends on who they will get in Group L, as Eli interviews one of the international delegates. So let's go through the teams drawn out of pot 1. In Group A, Mexico. In Group A, the first team will be Mexico. Group B, Canada. Group C, Brazil. Group D, the USA. Group E, Germany. Group F, the Netherlands. Group G, Belgium. Group H, Spain. Group I, France. Group J, Argentina. Group K, Portugal. And Group L, England. So we're just now waiting for we're just now going to wait a couple of moments before we proceed on to pot number 2. So now that interview has been concluded, we can now move on to pot number 2. And pot number 2.
Just want to add as well, just briefly, Nick, just for 1 second. There's a few teams in pot 2 that they're worth mentioning as well. The likes of Croatia and Switzerland, who haven't really had much of a mention as of yet. Obviously, Uruguay was mentioned, Japan was mentioned, but I feel that those two teams those two nations have got a decent chance as well of doing well.
Yes, and also not forgetting Croatia. I mean, they've had a good couple of runs in recent times. Reached the final in 2018, third place in 22. Morocco, we know for their exploits last time around. Colombia, they could spring a surprise or two. Quarterfinalists in 2014. Uruguay, winners of the inaugural World Cup in 1930. And also 1950. As Mike mentioned, Switzerland. We didn't give them much of a mention, but we are mentioning them now. And the other teams to round off pot 2 are Japan. Senegal. Ash touched on them a couple of times. He sees them as potentially the African side to progress further, but we shall see. Islamic Republic of Iran, they'll have to make up for a disappointing group stage last time around. In fact, they yet to break out of the group stage. And Korea Republic looks like they could be in with a decent chance themselves. Ecuador capitulated also fell out at the group stage last time around. Will they go further than the round of 16 in 2006? And also, welcome back Austria, who last played in the World Cup in 1998. Australia, they're a club they're a team that's doing well themselves. And so we now get on with proceedings as we prepare for pot 2. And pot number 2 will be drawn pot number 2 will be drawn, I presume, by Shaquille O'Neal. We will just have to wait and see on that one. and as I can see on my monitor, that the positions for pot 2 have already been allocated, and so Shaquille gives the ball, and Shaquille mixes the balls around a bit, and he unscrews them. Unscrews one of them, and the first nation to come out, Korea Republic, and Korea Republic will presumably go into Group A. Remember the side for remember this is the nation that reached the semi-finals in 2002, and we will get to England's group games a little later on, but we've got a draw to conclude, and the next team to come out is Switzerland. Switzerland have been pulled out of the bowl, and could they be placed into Group B? In fact, they are, and they are positioned Group B4. So Canada and Switzerland make up Group B so far. Now we move on to the next team, and those balls are tricky to open, but you do manage to get them open in the end. Morocco will be placed into Group C, I am sure. Mike says he's fancying going to the World Cup himself, but might try to get tickets to somewhere. Would be tough, but also fun. Well, you're a braver man than me. I don't much fancy going myself because of my inexperience. And Morocco, they'll be in Group C alongside Brazil. So Group C so far, Morocco and Brazil and Morocco. Group D, whoever gets in there will be placed into the third slot in the group, and that will be Australia. And so Australia will join the USA in Group D, and they're just yes, there's the confirmation. They are drawn into Group D, so they are Group D3. So D3 for Australia, and whoever gets chosen for Group E will be in the fourth slot. So E4 to you and me, and it is Ecuador. Ecuador, the next nation to be drawn out, and they will go into Group E4. And there's the confirmation as the graphic anyway, E4, now it's BBC2. Actually, what he says, so actually it's position E4. And as Ash has had to drop out, his battery is going. He has to drop off. But thanks so much. And as Japan is the next team drawn out, and they will be placed into Group F, and it looks as though they will go into F2. So Group F, F1 Netherlands, and F2 Japan. And now it's on to who will get chosen for Group G. Remember, the European teams can have two nations in, and it'll be Islamic Republic of Iran. So Iran will be drawn into Group G. They might have a tough time of it against Belgium. They certainly did against England, though they did manage to beat Wales. So Group G consists of Belgium and Iran. And now we turn our attention to Group H. Who will join Spain? Uruguay is the answer. And Uruguay will be in Group H, and they will take the position H4. So Uruguay placed into Group 8, placed into Group H, yet take the fourth slot. Who will join France in Group I as Shaquille stirs the ball, and out will come the banner, and it will be Senegal. Senegal will be placed in the same group against France. Those two, oddly enough, were in the same group in the 2002 World Cup in South Korea, Japan, and Senegal stunned the world by beating France 1-0. Could there possibly be a repeat of that iconic performance? We shall see. And Mike and Russ are saying that Croatia might come in. We shall see in a moment. Austria are the next team to be drawn out. First appearance, as I mentioned, since '98. But they made the they were third overall in 1954. So to take J3 in the group is Austria. There are now two teams left: Croatia and Colombia, and Colombia are the next team drawn out. Colombia, they'll be in the bottom part of Group H, and Colombia, remember, quarterfinalists in 2014. This will be their 7th World Cup appearance. And they are placed into the final slot K4. And last but not least, for Group L, alongside England, is Croatia. And Croatia has been a tough opponent for England. Beat them in the semi-finals in 2018. But England did beat Croatia in their opening game in Euro 2020. So this could well be an interesting opening match for England. So now we can go through the groups that we have so far. Group A, Mexico will be joined by Korea Republic. Group B, Canada will have Switzerland, and in Group C, Brazil's first opponents will be Morocco. Group D has the USA and Australia. Group E has Germany and Ecuador. And the Netherlands' first opponents in Group F will be Japan. Group H has Spain and Uruguay, though Spain are still yet to find out their first opponents. And France, their first opponents in Group I, Senegal, and so Argentina and Austria. We'll find out who the others are. But England's first opponents will be Croatia. We now go on to pot number 3, Norway. Another team making their first World Cup appearance for some time. They made the round of 16 in 1998. Panama, their first appearance since 2018, beaten by England in the same group. Egypt, one of the Russ said not to overlook them. They have a great player in Mohamed Salah. Algeria, they've not been in the World Cup since 2014, so it's good to see them back. Scotland, an amazing qualifying run, respectable in its own right, but whether they'll get out the group stage in a competition as big as this, we will see. Paraguay, also back for the first time since 2010 when they reached the quarterfinal. Tunisia, still yet to get out of the group stage. They failed last time. Can they break the curse this time around? And Cote d'Ivoire, known to you and me as the Ivory Coast. And the first of the new boys, Uzbekistan, are in the same group. And the hosts from the last World Cup are Qatar. Most recently Asian champions, but there's a lot for them to prove. And Saudi Arabia are in this as well. Famously beat Argentina in the group stage in the last World Cup. South Africa, welcome back to Bafana Bafana. for the first time since 2010. And Mike says he's feeling Norway here. Don't know why, or Tunisia or Egypt for England. Well, we shall see. As we now proceed with the draw. So who will take the place in Group A? Bear in mind that yes, the slots have been drawn up. So Mexico will find out who their first opponent will be in Group A. So Portugal and Colombia are in Group K, although Colombia aren't Portugal's first opponents. And we get the answer. South Africa will be placed into Group A. So they will be Mexico's first opponents. South Africa have been in this tournament 3 times previously, never got beyond the group stage. So they are placed into Group A and taken the position A2. So they will be Mexico's first opponents. And we now carry on with the draw as Aaron Judge is doing the balls this time, and Qatar are chosen, and Qatar have been pulled out of the bowl, so they will go into Group B, and their first opponents will be Switzerland. We'll be asking Russ and Mike their thoughts a little later on. And so now we come on to Group C. Paraguay are to be drawn. Paraguay, initially you'd put them into Group C, but because Brazil are from the same confederation, they cannot meet each other. So it appears as though Paraguay will be the United States of America's first opponents. And there is the confirmation. Qatar have been given the slot Paraguay, I should say, have been given the slot D2. And so now we turn our attention to the net. And so now we turn our attention to the next ball to be drawn out, and it will be Cote d'Ivoire. And so Cote d'Ivoire have been drawn out. They can't go into Group C. So they are looking at a slot. So they are potentially looking at a slot in Group E. And their first opponents will be Ecuador. So they'll take position E3. So now we know who Paraguay's first opponents will be. And the next ball to come out, Tunisia. And so Tunisia have been drawn out. And so Tunisia have been drawn out of the bowl. And we can now see where they will go. Yes, they will go into Group F, and they are to be placed in position F4. So F4 are Tunisia. And the next team to come out is Egypt. And so Egypt are to be taken out and placed into Group G. They will be Belgium's first opponents, and they've taken the position G2. So we now have some 6 teams left. And to take the position in Group H, Scotland. They will face Uruguay. They will face Uruguay first. And some people will be disappointed that that England did not get Scotland in the same group. So Group C Group G, I should say. So Group C has Scotland. So Group C has Brazil, Morocco, and Scotland. I thought they were going into Group R. I thought they were going to Group H, but no, I was wrong. So now we carry on. So now we carry on with proceedings. Saudi Arabia have been drawn out, and it looks to me as though they will go into Group H. We shall wait and see for confirmation. Saudi Arabia, three times participants. They are in Group H, and they are and their first opponents will be Uruguay. Uruguay. And so now we come to Algeria. And where will Algeria be placed? They will be placed into Group J, because they can't be in the same group as Senegal. So they'll be Argentina. So they'll be Argentina's first opponents in Group J. Algeria last appeared in 2014, and it is their fifth appearance, I should say. Uzbekistan, the first of the newcomers to be drawn out, and they will be placed into Group I. We'll just wait and see for confirmation. And Uzbekistan they're actually going into Group K. So Group K almost complete, along with Groups B, C, F, Groups B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. And the next ball to be drawn out is Panama. So Panama, the next team drawn out. Which group will they go in? We'll have to wait and see. It could be Group I, or it could be Group I, or it could be Group L. We shall have to see. And they are going into Group L, so the same group as England, and they take the final spot in Group L, position L4. And the last team to come out of pot 3 is Norway. So Norway are drawn out, and they will be in Group I, the same group as France and Senegal, and they will take up position I4. So that concludes the draw for pot 3. And we can now wait and see who will take the place for pot 4. Who will take the places? Who will take the final spots after we go through pot 4? So confirmed so far: Group A, Mexico, South Africa, and Korea Republic. Group B, Canada, Qatar, and Switzerland. Group C, Brazil, Morocco, and Scotland. Group D, the USA, Paraguay, and Australia. Group E, Germany, Cote d'Ivoire, and Ecuador. Group F, the Netherlands, Japan, and Tunisia. Group G, Belgium, Egypt, and Islamic Republic of Iran. Group H, Spain, Saudi Arabia, Uruguay. Group I, France, Senegal, Norway. Group J, Argentina, Algeria, and Austria. Group K, Portugal, Uzbekistan, and Colombia. And finally, Group L, England, Croatia, and Panama. Spain, Canada, Germany, and Portugal are yet to find out who their first opponents will be. So we can now swiftly move on to pot 4, We'll get the thoughts of Russ and Mike, how the teams will fare after we go through pot 4. So in pot 4, Jordan, the second of the new teams to qualify, and they'll be taking on, and also in pot 4, Cabo Verde, one of the small island nations making their World Cup bow. Ghana are in this as well, and they'll be looking to get out of the group stage and avoid a repeat of losing in Qatar. Curacao, another new team, and also Haiti are back for the first time since 1974. And as we've mentioned a couple of times, New Zealand back since 2010, and they almost qualified for the Qatar World Cup, but lost as a result of the intercontinental playoffs. Remember, there are 2 spaces for FIFA playoff winners, and they are as follows: New Caledonia, Jamaica, Democratic Republic of the Congo, and also Bolivia, Suriname, and Iraq, and also the remaining European playoff winners. They are Italy, Northern Ireland, Wales, Bosnia and Herzegovina in position in playoff A. Playoff B has Ukraine, Sweden, Poland, and Albania. And playoff C has Turkey, Romania, Slovakia, and Kosovo. And playoff D, Denmark, North Macedonia, Czechia, and the Republic of Ireland. And the playoff matches are to be played during the international match window between the 23rd and 31st of March 2026. So we're now on the home straight for the World Cup group stage draw, and it will be Wayne Gretzky to pick out the final balls. And so now we go through the final balls, and the one he's taken out is playoff D in UEFA. That's Denmark. That'll be Denmark, North Macedonia, Czechia, or the Republic of Ireland, and they will go into Group A, where the winners of that playoff will have their first match against Korea Republic. So they are position A4. And so now we move on. So now we go on to the next ball, and judging by what's on it, it's another one of the playoffs. And it is playoff A, which is Italy, Northern Ireland, Wales, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. And where will they be placed? The answer, I am sure, will be Group B. So Group B will welcome either Italy, Northern Ireland, Wales, or Bosnia and Herzegovina. So we're 2 balls in to the final pot, and groups A and B are decided, and going into Group C will be Haiti. So Scotland's first opponents will be Haiti, so for Scotland to be placed in Group C with the likes of Brazil and Morocco, it could be tough for them, but they are known for springing surprises, Scotland, so we could see something good come out of them. And now we move on to the next team drawn out, Curacao. Curacao, they won the CONCACAF Group B third round in order to qualify, but this will be quite the debut for them, as they will be placed into Group E. as they can't face the USA in Group D. So their first opponents will be Germany. So groups A, B, C, and E are complete. We'll run you through the groups when they are done, and the next one to come out is the second FIFA playoff winner, which will be between Iraq, Bolivia, and Suriname. Bolivia and Suriname will face each other in a semi-final, and the winner will face Iraq in the final. Those FIFA playoffs will be played in Mexico between the international window of the 23rd and 31st of March. And so they are placed into Group I and taken the slot number 3. And so now with only 6 spaces left, who will take the next spot? Cabo Verde. Cabo Verde, another small island nation, making their World Cup debut and they will be placed into Group H, where their first opponents will be Spain. So they take position H2. So we now have 5 spaces. So we now have 5 spaces left. And it'll either be one of the playoff winners, or it could be Jordan, Ghana, or New Zealand. We shall wait and see. So the next team to come out is the winner of the playoff final C for UEFA. That will be Turkey, Romania, Slovakia, or Kosovo. And we'll just wait and see which group they get. We'll just wait and see which group they get placed in, and they will be placed into Group D alongside the USA, Paraguay, and Australia. So with some five balls, so some 5 spaces to go. It was 6 last time. I do apologise. And the next one to come out is UEFA Playoff B, and that's between Ukraine, Sweden, Poland, and Albania. And whoever wins will qualify for the World Cup, and they are to be placed into Group F, where they will join the Netherlands, Japan, and Tunisia. And so we now have some 4 spaces left, and I think I can make out who it is. Jordan have been chosen, but they will have to go into Group J as one or two of those groups do have Asian sides in them, and they will join. And their first opponents will be Austria in Group J. So Jordan take position J4. So with three balls left, all the European playoff places, all the European places have been decided, apart from the next one to come out is the FIFA Playoff 1 winner, which will either be New Caledonia, Jamaica, or the Democratic Republic of the Congo. New Caledonia and Jamaica will face each other in a semi-final, and the winners will take on the Democratic Republic of the Congo. They are to be placed into Group K, along with Portugal, Uzbekistan, and Colombia. And so we now have and so we now have 2 spaces left. That would be a complete. It would be a complete surprise if New Zealand was placed in the same group as England, but but one way or another, we are soon going to know, and it will be the next team to come out, Ghana. But they will be going into Group L along with England, Croatia, and Panama because Egypt is an African nation. So now England know who their opponents will be: Croatia, Ghana, and Panama. Never underestimate the likes of Ghana. Need I remind you, they made the quarterfinals in 2010, but African sides do have a tendency to surprise, and we've only got one nation left to be decided, and that is New Zealand. So New Zealand will go into Group G along with Belgium, Egypt, and Iran, and that concludes the draw. That concludes the draw for the World Cup, as New Zealand take the final slots alongside Iran. So in a moment or two we will take a look at the groups and review and I will also get the thoughts of Russ and Mike to determine who will be going where in the group, so we wait and see who so we can now wait and see who we're going with, sort of officially confirm who will be going where. So good luck to all participating nations, and we can now go through the draw, and we can now go through the teams, starting with Group A, which will be Mexico, South Africa, Korea Republic, and the UEFA winner of UEFA Playoff D, Denmark, North Macedonia, Czechia, or the Republic of Ireland. Group B will have Denmark, the winner of UEFA Playoff A, Italy, Northern Ireland, Wales, or Bosnia and Herzegovina, Qatar, and Switzerland. Group C, Brazil, Morocco, Haiti, and Scotland. Group D, the USA, Paraguay, Australia, and the winner of UEFA Playoff C, which will be Turkey, Romania, Slovakia, or Kosovo. Let me just go through Group D one more time, because I don't think I said it right. USA, Paraguay, Australia, and Turkey, Romania, Slovakia, or Kosovo. Group E Germany, Curacao, Cote d'Ivoire, and Ecuador. Group F, the Netherlands, Japan. The winner of UEFA Playoff B, which will be Ukraine, Sweden, Poland, or Albania, and Tunisia. Group G, Belgium, Egypt, Islamic Republic of Iran, and New Zealand. Group H, Spain, Cabo Verde, Saudi Arabia, and Uruguay. Group I, France, Senegal. The winner of FIFA Playoff 2, Bolivia, which will be Bolivia, Suriname, or Iraq, and Norway. Group J, Argentina, Algeria, Austria, and Jordan. Group K, Portugal. The winner of FIFA Playoff 1, which will be New Caledonia, Jamaica, and Democratic Republic of the Congo, Uzbekistan, and Colombia. Group L, England. Group L, England, Croatia, Ghana, and Panama. so before we close the show, let's get the thoughts of Russ and Mike before so we can get the thoughts of Russ and Mike to see what they to see what they will to see what they will all think of the group stage and how the home nations England and Scotland will fare. So gents, quite the draw. So gents, quite the groups we have.
Yes, absolutely, Nicholas. I'll just jump in here first and we'll go to Mike in a second. But for me, the group of death for me in the groups is potentially Group I for France, Senegal, Norway, any one of them can get through. Germany, for me, have got quite an easy, one of the easier groups in there with Curacao and the new boys. But Ivory Coast and Ecuador, not that, not to be pushed over, in my opinion. Just looking at the others, Scotland have got a tough group, which come up against Morocco after what they did in the last tournament, last time they was there in the tournament. 18 other new winners. That should be a decent group there. Tough group for USA and Australia. That could be a decent group there with Paraguay and pushover. With regards to Belgium, that's a fairly easy group for Belgium and Egypt in Group G. If we're just looking through them all, I think Mexico and probably South Africa and Korea Republic could probably go through. Mexico got a decent side there, so that can't be a pushover, especially if Italy get through from playoff Group D. Then I don't mean it's. I mean Denmark. If Denmark get through, that's going to be a tough group. Denmark could potentially get through in that one. I think if Italy get through from Path A, they could potentially top the group with Switzerland coming second. Don't disregard Wales, Bosnia, or Northern Ireland for that playoff route. Then Brazil and maybe Morocco to go through with Scotland finishing third. For me, I don't think Scotland will make it out of the group. Now, see what they've got. I think it'll probably be USA and maybe Paraguay for Group D. I think it'll be Germany and one of Ivory Coast or Ecuador to go through there. I think the Netherlands and maybe potentially for me, if they get through, Ukraine to go through from that group, but don't discount Japan. I think it'll be Belgium and Egypt from Group G, as I mentioned. I think it'll be Spain and Uruguay from Group H. Group I, that's a tough group there for me. I think it'll be it could be one of three for me, France, 2 or 3 for me, I mean France, Senegal and Norway to top the group, and one of those comes second and third. Don't ask me which one, Nicholas. Argentina should storm their group, and you'll probably say Austria to join them in that group into the next round there. I think it'll be Portugal and maybe Colombia to get through from Group K. And I think it'll be England and Croatia to get through. But Ghana and Panama are tough oppositions as well. Don't discount them. But for me, I think England and Ghana and Croatia to get through in that one. And just to tell people the dates for the matches, Group A will start on the 11th of June. 12th of June is Group B and D. B, C and D for June 13th. E and F 14th. This is match day number 1. G and H 15th of June. I and J 16th of June. And England's group, which is Group L and Group K, are on the 17th of June. Then we go back round with A and B on 18th of June. And then so on, with England's last group match beyond 27th of June. England's group games for you guys is 17th of June, 23rd of June, and 27th of June. If you're a Scotland fan listening in, yours will be 13th of June, 19th of June, and the 24th of June. Same for Germany, who are in Group E, it will be 14th of June, 20th of June, and the 25th of June is when you'll be playing your fixtures. If you want to know when the fixtures are, just take a look at online and you'll find it there. And the group fixtures and the kickoff times will be released tomorrow. Nick, back to you.
Okay, yes, yes, that's right. Fixtures and times will be released tomorrow. Mike, with all that you've heard, regarding who's been placed in the groups, how would you see both England and Scotland faring in their groups, and also who do you see progressing to the next round?
Right. So yeah, for Group A, I feel that Group A is going to be Mexico and South Africa. I think they'll both progress, but obviously South Korea is going to be a difficult challenge as well. And if Republic of Ireland can get through, then they might fancy their chances as well. Then Group B, Canada, Qatar, Switzerland, and that group. I think Canada will win that group. I think Canada and Switzerland, will be the ones that progress in that group. And then obviously Wales and Northern Ireland have got a good chance if they can get through as well. And obviously that's Italy's section 2. With Group L, England and Croatia, Panama and Ghana. There's not in any particular order, by the way. I think that England and Croatia will be the two that progress there, but don't discount Ghana. Brazil should win their group, and then it'll be Morocco for me. Scotland, as Russ said, will fall at the 3rd position. And then Group G, I think that Belgium and Egypt will progress in that one. Portugal and Colombia from K. Argentina will win their group quite comfortably, I feel, and I think Austria will be the ones that follow them through. Then F, I think, will be the Netherlands and Tunisia to go through, but obviously Japan are a good side too. The Group D, we've got USA, Paraguay, and Australia. And obviously the playoff C winners, which is going to be difficult to predict. But I think that with that one, I'd go USA. I think USA will go through, and then potentially the winner from playoff C might be the second one that goes through there. And then obviously Group F, finally, Netherlands, Japan, Tunisia. And the winners from B, Netherlands will top the group for me. And then I think that we'll see Japan finish as runners-up in that one there. But it's looking good. We've got some good draws there. And just have a look here. We've got some comments as well. JB, I've been watching a World Cup. Have I been watching a World Cup draw here on 1970s disco? Yeah, it has felt like that at times as well, hasn't it? Yeah. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. There's a few teams there for the likes of England to fancy their chances against in their group. And, Argentina will certainly fancy their chances in their group too.
Okay. We will talk about UEFA. We will talk about the UEFA playoffs closer to the time. But in a nutshell, Mike, do you really believe that Northern Ireland, Wales, or indeed the Republic of Ireland could qualify from their respective playoffs?
Yeah, potentially. I think that obviously it's going to be difficult for Northern Ireland because they've got Italy in their section there. So maybe they'll be the ones that, well, I'm sure they'll be the favourites. But then you never know with playoff football, anything can happen. Anyone can beat anyone over any given day. So there's that factor in it. And yeah, Wales, have got a good chance as well. I think that they've got as much chance as anybody of getting through in their section as well. So interesting to see how it all pans out. But I think if they get through, Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland and Wales will all, feel like they've got a decent chance of progressing from their group potentially as well.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Mike. Russ, do you agree that? Russ, do you also think that Northern Ireland, Wales, or the Republic of Ireland could make the final spots?
For me, Nick, when I look at who they've got in there in the actual playoff matches, I don't think Northern Ireland will have a chance with them coming up against Italy, who's performed well in recent games in international football. Whereas they've got a chance of making the final, and then it's a one-off game against Italy and Northern Ireland. I think it could be Italy-Wales for that one, and I would potentially say Italy to go through from playoff A. With regards to Republic of Ireland, then they've got a chance to get back Czechia, and I think they can give a good game to Denmark and North Macedonia. I think Ireland have a good chance of getting through more than Wales or Northern Ireland, in my opinion. So I think the Republic will go through, but not Wales or Northern Ireland. But on a one-off game, who knows? Anything can happen in football. Just look at midweek. Everyone expect Leeds to beat Chelsea, and Leeds did beat Chelsea. So if Northern Ireland turn up and Italy don't, Northern Ireland will be in the final against Wales or Bosnia. And if whether they face in the final don't get turned up, Northern Ireland could be there or Wales could be there. You just don't know on the day. Let's see what happens, because stranger things have happened in football, Nick.
Yes.
Just before we go into that as well, I just want to ask Russ a question, if that's all right with you, Nick.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, mate. So, Russ has said there that he feels that potentially Republic of Ireland can get through. How do you see them doing that if they do progress through the playoff section, Russ, against Mexico, South Korea, and South Africa as well?
I think it'd be a tough ask for them in the group stage, Mike. I think potentially they could come second, but we'll have to see which players get picked in the squad. You look at Troy Parity performed well in the last few games in the group stage of the qualifiers, scoring twice against Portugal and scoring an hat-trick in the game against Hungary to get them to the playoff spot. So if he's on form and the players are on form, other players around him are on form as well, they could potentially do well. It just depends on who gets picked and how well they do in the actual matches against them. There could be a match for anybody for me, and if we stick to the system, stick to the principles that they've done in the last couple of games, they've got a good chance of getting through. And for me, if they do play like they did, especially against Portugal from what their last I've seen, and against Hungary, I think they will have a chance of getting out of the group, maybe reaching around the 32, and maybe go on then. Or, who knows, it could surprise a team there and get through to the round of 16. We'll have to wait and see if we get through first. But I think if we do get through, then they've got a good chance of getting out of the group, in my opinion.
And then just quickly on Group B as well, obviously we've said that Italy, if they win their playoffs, will probably win their group as well. But what about Wales and Northern Ireland? Say they were to surprise the Italians. What do you feel their chances will be against Canada, Switzerland, and Qatar in Group B?
Against Switzerland, for me, I don't think even it's like anything, Mike. Anybody can win anybody on day. If one team turns up and the other don't, you could see a shock. So it just depends on if they get through. First of all, like I said, if they get through, it just depends on what team turns up on the day. If they turn up and perform really well, they have a good chance of getting through. But if they turn up and just think, for example, we're only playing Qatar, we've got an easy win here, they could get turned over. Same against Canada. Only tough game for them in that group, if they do get through there, is Switzerland, in my opinion.
Yeah, and obviously Switzerland are a good side. They've got some good players. Granit Xhaka, for example, is having a fantastic season with Sunderland. Yeah.
But just look at Canada under Jesse Marsch so far. Marsch seems to have found a team that can play with his style and system. So that could be a tough ask under Marsch at this World Cup. So I think if they do get through, whoever gets through, say if it is Northern Ireland or Wales, then they could potentially either win it or come second behind Canada for me. Or even third if Switzerland perform well and get out of the group.
Right, thanks for that, Russ. Just, I'll hand you back to Nick as well now. But just before I do that, Nick, I just want to ask your opinion on a couple of the chances of England as well, with England's group. And we've given you our winners. Who do you think's got a shout to win the whole tournament as well? So just those two, and then continue on from there, buddy.
Too early to say for me at the moment. There's a lot of good teams out there. I would personally have to say it's either going to be European or South American, either a European or a South American nation. But as I kept saying throughout this as I keep saying throughout this broadcast, other teams do have a habit of surprising.
And then just the second question as well. Then just before I let you call it a night and wrap it up on England as well. Obviously, we touched on the Irish chances, Republic of Northern. We've touched on Scotland. We've touched on Wales, and obviously England in a decent group there with Croatia and Ghana and Panama. So do you think do you think Thomas Tuchel's side will progress? How do you feel on that?
I feel he's got a well-rounded squad. Has Thomas Tuchel? He's made a really good impression in taking over, in managing them ever since he took the post in March. It's just and the way he sort of rallied his team together has really paid dividends. I mean, in terms of great teams, it's not just the players; it's also the management as well. And I'd have to say Thomas Tuchel has. I'd have to say Tuchel has more than risen to the occasion.
Yeah, that's perfect, Nick. So just wrap it up as and when you're ready, mate.
All right, thanks, Mike. All right, thanks, Mike. That's it for our coverage on the group stage draw for the World Cup. We hope to bring you coverage. We hope to bring you coverage of some of the UEFA playoff matches, but we'll also keep you up to date with the UEFA playoffs and even the FIFA playoffs on our social media platforms. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/the commentary hub. Also follow us on X at Commentary Live 1. And also don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channels, the TC Hub, Storm FM, the Commentary Hub 2, and JB Sports. I've been Nicholas Jones. Thanks very much to Russ, Mike, Ash, and Bruno for joining me on what could be on what could be the start of perhaps one of the most unbelievable and amazing tournaments that we have ever seen. Thank you very much to everyone. Thank you very much to everyone who's listening. We hope you've enjoyed our coverage so far, and we'll see you very soon for more football and sports on the Commentary Hub. Until then, goodbye for now. All right, thanks everybody.